Welcome, everyone, to another deep dive. You've brought us just a really fascinating collection of sources this time. We've got articles, research, notes. It's quite a stack covering everything from, well, ancient history to modern tech, personal stuff to global issues.
It really is an incredible mix, yeah.
Mhm.
A real mosaic of, human experience. And our job today, I guess, is to sift through it all, pull out the key insights, connect some dots, maybe in surprising ways, think of it as becoming a bit more world-class in understanding all these different forces shaping things.
Exactly. We're going to try and uncover some unexpected facts, hopefully spark a few of those aha moments for you, show how all these bits and pieces that seem separate, actually they kind of weave together
Yeah.
into a much bigger picture. So yeah, let's get ready to unpack some knowledge. Okay, let's dive right in then. You asked us about what defines us, and I mean, what's more basic than figuring out who the most typical human even is on a planet with, what, nearly 8 billion people now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And what's fascinating is that scientists actually, they took this on, they tried to calculate it and came up with some specifics. According to their findings, the average person, well, statistically,
Yeah.
speaks Chinese, is male, under 20, has a cell phone, has a bank account, and lives in a big city.
Huh. That really makes you pause, doesn't it? How does that stack up against what maybe you assumed? Or even your own life? It certainly challenges a kind of Western-centric view, I think, and maybe implies things about, I don't know, tech adoption globally, cultural shifts.
That's a great point. It definitely forces a shift in perspective on what average even means worldwide.
So moving from that broad, typical view, how do we get to the unique, our own stories, and connect those back to the bigger human story? Your sources brought up this idea of the human family tree.
Right, and if we link this up, scientists in New York City specifically, they've been collecting DNA samples from people all over, Thailand, Ecuador, Africa, the Caribbean, tracing ancestors back generations. The goal is figuring out where people came from, mapping out this human family tree.
Wow.
And what's really profound here, I think, is the idea that each of us carries this sort of genetic historic document right inside us. Our DNA, it tells a story, migrations, connections over millennia. We usually only think back maybe 1 or 2 generations, right? Grandparents, maybe great-grandparents.
Yeah.
But DNA testing, it could take us back like 12 generations.
12?
Yeah. And the key takeaway, at that genetic level, we're basically identical.
That is quite something, a scientific confirmation of our shared humanity, really. But then if we're so similar genetically, how do we square that with all the cultural differences we see every day, the social divides?
That's the tension, isn't it? Our shared biology versus our incredibly diverse cultural expressions. It's fascinating.
Okay, so moving beyond biology then. How do we express these unique identities, connect across cultures? You found sources talking about being a cultural ambassador and also about like personal statements defining who you are.
Yeah, and what's interesting here is how travel can really shift your perspective. The singer Jason Mraz, for instance, he talked about how his travel surprised him. He realized people everywhere are, and this is his quote, more alike than they are different. Which he said made him less timid about going places, more comfortable being an outsider.
That makes sense. Direct experience breaking down walls. And it's not just big trips, is it? Even our everyday choices, they say a lot, often without us realizing. Your sources get into how every shoe tells a story, which sounds a bit fun, but it's about nonverbal cues, right?
Exactly.
Did you know your shoes can apparently signal things like your gender, your job,
Yeah.
like construction worker boots versus lawyer's dress shoes, obviously.
Yeah.
But also personality. Bright shoes suggesting you're outgoing, neutral colors maybe more sophisticated.
Yeah, and worn sneakers might mean rebel.
Yeah.
But then $400 designer sneakers mean something else entirely, like you're really fashion conscious.
It's like our feet are sending out little signals all the time, mini biographies almost.
And if our shoes are broadcasting things, what about, status symbols, luxury items? This leads to that whole issue of authenticity. Your sources even had a guide on how to spot a fake Louis Vuitton bag.
Right. Practical tips like if it's under $300, probably fake, and the LVs shouldn't be crooked, and the leather handles change color over time. Yellow stitching.
Yeah, all those details. But beyond just spotting fakes, what does this whole thing, the desire for the real thing, or even a good imitation tell us about, our cultural values, our aspirations, maybe our anxieties?
It's definitely a window into that tension. Wanting status, wanting self-expression, sometimes even through imitation. It makes you think, doesn't it? This obsession with authenticity and stuff we buy, does it reflect a deeper need for it in our actual lives, our relationships?
That's a really interesting question to ponder.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit from identity and expression to action. how we make decisions, face challenges. And this next part, this really made me rethink things. Why do teenagers act the way they do? Your sources looked at the teenage brain.
Uh-huh. And recent studies are showing that the prefrontal cortex, that's the part for, like, decision-making, impulse control, planning ahead. It's not fully developed until we're about 25.
25.
Yeah. But, and this is important, it doesn't mean teenage behavior, even the stuff that seems irrational, is just a flaw. Some scientists think that this period, with its surge in brain chemicals like dopamine,
Yay.
it actually primes the brain for learning, for exploration. It encourages risk-taking.
Risk-taking.
For a reason. Well, maybe evolutionarily speaking, it was important, for leaving the nest, finding new things, becoming independent. And there's this intense need for peer approval, too. They used a video game analogy in the source players being way more likely to speed through a yellow light if their friends were watching.
Ah, so peer pressure isn't just social, it's neurological.
It seems to play a big role in how teens perceive risk, yeah.
So basically, our brains are kind of wired for adventure when we're young, pushing us to explore, even if there are consequences.
And connecting that to consequences, they can be really profound, especially when the risks are high. Your sources mentioned Everest's deadliest day back in 1996. So many fatalities on just one day.
I remember reading about that. Tragic.
And it wasn't just bad luck or bad weather. Apparently the weather was good. It seems it was a complex mix of things. Decisions made by different guides, maybe some rivalry, plus more climbers than usual because of a film crew being there. It's like a case study in how small decisions may be driven by pride or groupthink or just flawed risk assessment, how they can add up to disaster, even when conditions seem okay. Big lessons there for any high-stakes situation, really.
Absolutely. And it's not just extreme environments like Everest. You also found stories about a doctor trapped at the South Pole, needing an emergency supply drop, and those Chilean miners trapped for weeks underground. Intense heat, panic, but supporting each other. These situations really highlight the weight of decisions. And today, those consequences can get amplified massively by the digital world, can't they?
Oh, definitely. Your sources talked about nowhere to hide.
Yeah.
Things like someone filmed arguing on a train in New York, or college kids messing around damaging a car, and it ends up online. And suddenly, these moments have huge fallout, public criticism, damage to reputations.
As everything can be recorded everywhere.
Pretty much. We're losing that anonymity not just online, but out in public, too. There aren't really restrictions on recording people in public spaces. It raises big questions about privacy, accountability, living in this hyper-connected age.
Yeah. A stark reminder that even small moments can suddenly become very public. And stick around. Okay, let's shift again to broader societal challenges. Our environmental impact. Your sources included one called Plugging into the Sun, Why We Need to Be Leaders Ourselves. And what jumped out at me here was this huge number. The sun pumps out 120,000 terawatts of energy every year. Humans only use about 16 terawatts, yet solar power is less than, what, 0.1% of our electricity? Why is that gap so enormous?
Well, the sources break it down. There are basically two main ways we capture solar. Steam generation, think big solar farms with mirrors. More efficient, but needs lots of open space, expensive transmission lines. And then PV panels, photovoltaic panels, the ones you see on rooftops. Less efficient, but easier to install anywhere.
Okay.
But the big challenge for both, really, is intermittency. What do you do when it's cloudy or at night? Storage is key. Batteries, other solutions, but that adds cost. And upgrading the whole electrical grid to handle lots of solar input, that's a massive infrastructure job.
So it's not just the panels themselves, it's the whole system.
Exactly. PV panel costs are coming down, which is great.
Yeah.
But getting the overall cost low enough for really widespread use, that's still a hurdle. Though the source does make the point that individual actions matter too, adopting an energy diet.
Like unplugging chargers, using public transport, small things that add up.
Yeah, they can make a difference collectively.
So the tech is there, mostly. But the practical economic challenges are still significant. And this connects to other environmental struggles too, right? Like sinking England.
Coastlines eroding fast. Seawalls needing major repair, described as being in a sorry state. It's a powerful example of nature's forces versus our attempts to defend against them, especially with climate change accelerating things like sea level rise. Coastal resilience is a huge ongoing issue.
Okay, let's move to our final theme, our relationship with the natural world. Animals, specifically. Your sources covered a lot here, from pets in our homes to endangered species out in the wild.
Right, and starting close to home, humans domesticated dogs something like 15,000 years ago. They are the first wild animal we brought into the fold, so to speak.
15,000 years.
Yeah. Which leads straight into questions about our responsibilities, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Is it okay to capture wild animals, like parrots, keep them in cages? Is that cruel? What about hunting wild animals for sport? And then there's how we treat our pets. Do we sometimes go too far treating them like people, dressing them up in clothes, that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Where's the line between care and maybe disrespecting their animal nature?
Interesting ethical questions. And that idea of responsibility gets even bigger when we talk about protecting endangered species, right? What does that tell us about our role on the planet?
Absolutely. Your sources highlighted the work of the David Sheldrick Wildlife Trust in Kenya. They rescue and raise orphan baby elephants. Often their mothers were killed by poachers or sometimes conflicts with farmers. And it's a long process, years, to raise them and carefully reintroduce them back into the wild.
That sounds incredible.
It is. They've successfully returned over 100 elephants so far, which is vital not just for numbers, but for the stability of the wild herds. Especially for the female orphans growing up with stable adults, helps them overcome trauma, learn how to be good mothers themselves later on.
That's amazing.
And what's really quite moving is that some of the elephants they raised, like one named Emily, they actually come back to visit their human caretakers later, sometimes even bring their own newborns to show them.
Wow. That shows such a deep connection. And technology is helping here too, isn't it? You mentioned geofencing.
Yeah. So they put GPS collars on some elephants, and they set up these invisible virtual fences on a map. If a collared elephant crosses that line, heading towards farms or villages, it triggers a 10 alert to rangers, so they can go intercept the herd before there's conflict.
Clever. Using tech to protect both people and elephants.
Exactly. But it also brings up how interconnected everything is. It's not just elephants. Siberian tigers, numbers decimated by hunting, habitat loss. Their survival affects the whole forest ecosystem. Domesticated bees. We rely on them to pollinate so much of our food, their decline. That hits food costs, farm jobs,
Yeah.
food security,
Right. We don't always think about bees that way.
and bottlenose dolphins.
Mhm.
Highly intelligent social animals. They face threats from hunting, being captured for aquariums, which leads to protests, people questioning the ethics of keeping such complex creatures in tanks. So, yeah, all these examples, they really underscore how our actions impact the natural world in so many ways.
So, okay, let's try and pull this all together. The bigger picture. We've gone from the average human to DNA to shoes to teenage brains, Everest, solar power, elephants. It's been quite a journey through your sources today. And I think a clear theme is emerging, isn't it?
I think so.
Yeah.
It really comes down to understanding connections. Knowledge is great, but it's most powerful when you see how things link up and then apply that understanding. These topics might seem separate, right? Personal choices, society, the environment, but they're not isolated at all. They're all part of this incredibly intricate tapestry. It really shows that, there's always more to learn, and getting different perspectives just makes our understanding richer.
That is so true. You've given us such a rich canvas today.
Hmm.
And it makes you think, if all our actions, big or small, what we post online, how much energy we use, the shoes we choose, decisions under pressure, if they all have these ripple effects and tell a story about us, what hidden signals are you sending out about yourself, your values, sending out to that broader human family tree, maybe without even realizing it? And how can understanding these connections, these deep dives we take, how can that empower you to act maybe more consciously in your own, world-class life? Something to think about until our next deep dive.